Julia, how did you first start your site? Did you hire someone? Did you do it all on your own, or?
I'm very lucky to have a computer programmer for a husband. And so I started my site on WordPress with his help, and my cousin actually runs a business starting website, so he also had helped me out a little bit. But it's very basic. I mean, you can go to WordPress.com, and there's also WordPress.org, and set up an account, and within 10 minutes have your own blog. They have templates you can choose from. You know, obviously you get to choose the name of the blog, and you have to buy a domain name if you want to have your own domain doesn't have WordPress in it, which is a matter of dispute among some people. And it's quite easy. So it's really pretty simple. It just depends on how professional you want your site to look.
John, have you ever tried to start a blog?
Well, kind of. When I was in grad school and folks started talking about blogging, I had no idea what it meant. And this was 5 or 6 years ago. So back in the day when LiveJournal was still around, I had one of those. And some friends and I started a blog briefly called RepublicansHateLove.com that was a right conservative commentator, someone that was more of a moderate centrist, and then I as the resident liberal. But part of the problem was that such of the demand to update frequently and to keep up with the news, I just didn't have the time to really be invested in it. So between my LiveJournal or my MySpace blog, folks would say, "Why haven't you updated yet?" I said, "I'm sorry, I had other things to do." And so it takes that particular amount of commitment to develop and maintain an audience that I wish I had the time for.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, yeah. Julia, how long do you put in a day? You know,
how many hours are there? No, I was just thinking of what you were saying is that when you start a blog, if you're thinking of starting one, you really have to choose a topic that you're passionate about, because it is so much work, and you know, you might not really make that much money, and you might not get that much fame and glory. So you've really got to be passionate about the subject and care about it, because more than covering a beat as a reporter, you have to be so invested in the subject that you go above and beyond 8 hours a day, and are willing to update frequently. And you know, many bloggers update 7 days a week. I give myself a rest on Saturday and Sunday most of the time, but even then, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, because I mean, bloggers check out the web 24/7 pretty much. You know, like if they're interested in a site, they're still going to go on Saturday and Sunday, so doesn't really give you a break.
And you have the pressure of the 24/7 news cycle, in which that, you know, your readers are constantly expecting something. Oh, you know, if you read a celebrity blog when the news about Natasha Richardson came out, I'm sure most people were instantly going to their favorite blogs. Well, why don't you have something up? You know, well, you've got to be on top of the news all the time and keeping up on your RSS feeder and reading all the other popular sites. And it's great to have like a companion helping you, or a co-writer, or somebody else writing. So
well, the software is there though, and a lot of people use blogging software to post pictures of the grandkids, to stay in touch with classmates from long ago. So it's not, what we're talking about here is professional blogging as opposed to casual blogging. Professional stuff, if you don't have something to say, don't do this. Don't try this at home. It's a lot of work.
So casual blogging, is that, you know, would you consider something like Facebook? Do people blog on there? Is that more of a site that people would use as casual blogging, or you're saying they could use Tumblr or WordPress as actually doing casual?
They do use Tumblr and WordPress, and there are enormous numbers of Flickr installations where people put up their photographs of family vacations, or here's the work I did on my Mazda Miata, whatever it is. Most of these technologies have a huge groundswell of support among people doing family things and hobbies, as opposed to the professional stuff.
Yeah. Now, another huge thing right now is obviously Twitter. I'm sure everyone has heard about this. It's a huge topic of conversation. Actually, Jon Stewart from The Daily Show just had a piece on it on March 2nd, where he joked about how popular it's getting and referred to Congress members twittering, basically questioning the value of Twitter and if it's something that congressmen and women should be doing. And also just, I believe yesterday or today in the LA Times, Lance Armstrong was talking about a story where he tweeted about his collarbone being broken the day it happened. So, you know, it's very fast information. Now, Ezra, just to get a better understanding, Twitter is described as a microblog. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Simply, you can put up posts which are read by the entire world of 140 characters or less. That's it. That's all Twitter is. And if you're the New York Times, you can use it to release breaking news. If you're me, you can put up the fact that I'm doing my laundry or walking my dog. There's all sorts of inanity and mixed in with really good information content. So it's a wild and woolly medium.
Now, this is something that you actually require in your class. Why do you make it? Why is it important enough to make it a requirement?
Because I see a lot of news sources now using Twitter as a way to live blog events. You can enter Twitter messages from your computer, but you can also enter messages from your cell phone. So it's being used by a lot of organizations to provide a kind of lively coverage that they haven't been able to do with longer form stories.
I think it's also a way to reach out to younger readers that might not maybe go to the New York Times, but they're already on Twitter and they say the New York Times is tweeting about some breaking news event, and then they get hooked into it. Or, I mean, I like to use Twitter as a way to reach new audiences and just another way to sort of share the information. And some people even cross-pollinate their tweets with Facebook, so you can make it so that every time you do a Twitter post, it automatically updates your Facebook status. And I think you can do it vice versa, where your Facebook status becomes your tweet.
Right.
With the new Facebook layout, it looks even more and more like Twitter.
Right.
To make them so put together. And I think it's interesting when we talk about it being a microblog, when there are also bloggers who use tweets to update that they have new blog posts. So they microblog about the macro blog.
Right. That's what I do. It's great though.
That information.
Also, Robin, a good proportion of my students are actually working to careers in public relations. And a huge amount of recent developments in Twitter are organizations using Twitter to promote whatever goal they're after. Public relations is starting to be a bigger function of Twitter than it was originally.
Yeah. Now, so it sounds like there is good content coming out of Twitter, but, and it's really sort of becoming a phenomenon, but, like Jon Stewart was saying, does it give a lot of value? John, what do you think about this? Is Twitter, going to even further change communication because it's even shorter content? I mean,
I think Twitter is just another symptom of our desire to be constantly connected. I mean, anyone that has an iPhone or a BlackBerry knows that you can constantly check your Facebook, you can text your friends, you can Twitter back and forth. So I don't know if it'll necessarily change the way that we communicate, but it'll just kind of feed this frenzy we have to be continually updated. That sometimes it can be really useful. That, for example, in debate tournaments, folks have started using it to announce that rounds are about to start or that judges are missing. So it can be an actual communications medium, but then at the same time, I have students that post barely decipherable ramblings that don't seem to contain vowels. And so it's problematic when our desire for that truncated communication and that immediate access can get in the way of effective communication. Because I've had to respond with text messages like, I don't know what this says. Can you please include vowels so I can read it?
And they might go over the 140 characters though.
Which is kind of precisely that problem. How do we fit what we want to say into these? Does that mean that we need to have just multiple tweets so that we can do it in a row? Do we just need to give a link that this is what I actually want you to look at? And so when you can Twitter on your Facebook and then you can update all of your electronic communications from your phone when you're walking from your car to class, that's more of a symptom of us always wanting to be connected. But I don't think that'll necessarily change communication. It might just make it a little bit more difficult to communicate if you're not fluent or if you can't read the new forms of discussion.
right.
But I mean, doesn't it also have the potential to make us all a little bit more informed, even if we're getting these, even if we're getting our news in 140 characters or, through Facebook updates?
Oh, I mean, definitely. That's one of the things. I've just recently joined the I have a phone that can do more than make phone calls thing. And I love the fact that I can actually get my news updates and I know what's happening. And but at the same time, it causes this feeling where if I don't check my phone every 10 minutes, I mean, we've been on the air for 20 minutes and I'm starting to go into convulsions because I don't know if I've got an email yet. But so it's definitely true that it does have these great uses where you can get more information, you can communicate better with folks, that if you don't have the time for a 20-minute phone call, you can send a quick tweet to let folks know what's going on. So it does definitely cut both ways.
Right.